Up, y'all. What's going on? It's your boy Charles. Hit that thumbs up button. We are checking out Mike Epps' biography, Unsuccessful Thug. Mike Epps is one of my favorite comedians. Been in the game for over 30 years, man. Damn, time goes by. Let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to come back with my reaction.
Now, my mom loved me, but was she proud of me back in those days? I don't know about that. I was a real funny kid, but I ran fucking wild. When she was showing off her kids, she'd say, "This is Robbie. He plays football and music. This is Julie. She designs clothes and sews. John does martial arts. And who is this boy over here? Oh, that's Michael. Just Michael." I didn't do anything she could brag on. I was a damn fool, if you want to know the truth. Always raising hell. When I think now about all the ways I found to get in trouble, I can't believe how dumb I was. For example, one day I wrote down every curse word I ever heard and stupidly left the piece of paper lying around. My mom found it and she taped it on the front door. She told me that if anyone came to see us, I'd have to explain it to them. Soon enough, some family friends came over. My mother called me into the entryway. "Michael," she said to me, "tell everybody what this is. Read the words." "It's a list of curse words," I said. I was so ashamed I started crying. Through the snot and tears, I read, "Shit, bitch, fuck you, asshole." "What's that one?" my mother said, pointing to a word I'd skipped. "Pussy," I said, sobbing. You know the worst behaved kid in your neighborhood? The one everyone would assume was guilty if something ended up stolen or busted? Yeah, that was me. I was always doing stupid shit. Once I threw a heavy film reel up in the air, and it came down on my head and split my skull open. In my family, they like to say that was my first time in the movies. I threw rocks at windows. I glued a girl's hands together when she fell asleep. Don't worry, she got them apart eventually. I would beat up Cheney all the time. If I got bored in a diner, I'd take the paper off a straw and tear it into tiny pieces and, with spit, stick them all over my face like I had paper chicken pox.
Oh.
My mom was always popping me for that shit, but it didn't do any good. If I got a laugh for it, I'd keep doing it no matter what the consequences were. I was real dramatic about my badness, too. It wasn't like I was a sneak. In fact, I was terrible at hiding things. I got caught for pretty much everything I ever did wrong. And the stupider I was being, the more I wanted everyone to hear about it. Like, one day I got mad about something and went and sat in my bedroom window up on the second floor. "I'm getting ready to jump," I shouted down. "I'm gonna do it. Say goodbye to me now." "Mama," Julie shouted, "Michael's getting ready to jump out the window. Come quick." "Well, let the damn fool jump then," I heard our mama say from downstairs. I guess after 5 kids, you can tell when someone is bluffing a jump from a window. She was right. I didn't jump. All I wanted was attention. At school, it was no different. Our mom was sure glad, I think, to be free of me a few hours a day, to let the public education system do what they could with me. I got in trouble all the time, though, and got sent home plenty. Every single year, I was the worst kid in class, and my mom heard about it. I don't know that they had speed dial back then, but if they did, you better believe the principal had my mom on it. My mother would have to drag me out of bed in the morning to go to school. I hated school. I mean, at first I liked my elementary school pretty good. School 48. School 48 was a cool place, man. I remember.
Man, that was the name of his elementary school. School for it. They didn't have no name like Evans High School or Boone High School or Jones High, like my high school. School 48. That's not even. It sounds like it's almost like it's a jail, like precinct or something. School 48. That was the name of the school. The thumbs up button.
Remember on Fridays when they were let out, they sold real good popcorn. I love that popcorn. If I close my eyes, I can taste it now. That was worth showing up for. But the rest of it? Nah. Shit. I got left back twice.
Damn, that's me.
I even got left back in kindergarten. Do you know how bad at school you have to be to fail kindergarten? Maybe it was the umbilical cord thing. Maybe it was the 3 bowls of Captain Crunch I ate every morning for breakfast, which meant I'd be a Tasmanian devil all morning, then crash in first period and fall asleep at my desk. By the time I woke up again, I'd have lost track of what was happening, so I'd just look around trying to think of shit to make everyone laugh, something to shout out, someone to make fun of. I didn't care if it would get me sent back to the principal's office, get my mom called. Again, if I got a laugh, it was worth whatever happened. I was always making up stories, telling jokes, trying to get everyone to crack up. Schoolwork was boring, and math was fucking impossible. So instead, I'd spend my days trying to think up pranks. I'd put tacks on kids' chairs, make funny noises, shout things out of turn. I really don't know why I was so bad. I've just always been a mischievous guy. And I can't control my mind sometimes. I can't help what I think is hilarious. All I know is that at school every day was a new challenge to be badder than the day before. Usually it was just for a laugh and no harm done. A lot of the teachers actually liked me and thought I was funny, even though they still failed me. Not all of them liked me, though. Some of my teachers hated me and told me so, too. No joke. They wanted me to suffer. I know this because they said so. There was an evil teacher at my school, a rough little woman who could not wait for me to get in her grade. "When you're in my class, I'm going to get you," she'd say when she saw me around the school. When I did get in her class, I found out what it meant to be got. Whenever I did anything wrong, she made me kneel on the floor for what felt like hours, facing the wall, my knees on bottle caps.
Damn.
That was some Guantanamo shit right there.
That's back when they used to be able to give you paddlings. They don't do it no more, but used to be able to, I think my era was the last time you would go to the principal office and they would give you a paddling, like 2 or 3 whacks. I think they stopped doing it. They stopped doing that by the time I got out of elementary school. I say by the 4th or 3rd grade, they stopped. The 4th and 5th grade, they stopped doing it. But 1st, 2nd, I remember kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, used to go up to the principal office and get a paddling. Yeah, they don't do that. Yeah, they stopped doing that before the 80s ended. Hit the thumbs up button.
You know what I mean? But these days, I almost feel bad for that evil teacher. Because if she thought it was going to straighten me out, it sure didn't work. If anything, it made me hate school more. I just got worse and worse just to spite her. And also because it felt like, why not? We didn't really have any idea of what we wanted to be when we grew up, what we would want to be good for. It's not like college felt like a real possibility for most of us. Hell, most of us would drop out before the end of high school. It's not like we were on the fast track to med school. You know, when people say, "What did you want to be when you grew up?" I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That is a white people question. We didn't have goals where I came from. There weren't any kids saying, "I want to be president. I want to be a pilot. I want to be..." Oh, no. We wanted to get some money. And we wanted some new Jordan sneakers. And we wanted to not die. That was as far as we were thinking ahead.
Wow.
No one really seemed to expect anything from us, you feel me? I feel like the whole world, and for sure all the white parts of Indianapolis, just hope we stay in our neighborhood and not come bother them. People blame poor people for not pulling themselves out of poverty. But how are you going to pull yourself out of it when you can't even imagine what it would look like?
Right.
It's not as if we had an uncle who was an astronaut, or a neighbor who was a professor, or a cousin who was a banker. We knew people who worked in factories and people who worked at fast food restaurants and plenty of people who didn't work at all.
Right.
But there was at least one day a year when the white part of the city pretended to care about us. Career Day. It was a joke, of course. For a couple hours once a year, some poor sap came to talk to us in a loud assembly no one paid much attention to. In theory, they get firemen or cops or doctors to show up and talk to us about life and their jobs, and we'd get inspired and choose to not become drug dealers. Righto. One year, the guy who came to talk was introduced to us as Officer Friendly. There wasn't nothing friendly about that motherfucker. He should have been called Officer Drew the Short End of the Stick and had to go talk to hood kids, or Officer Irritable, or Officer Let's Get This Over With. He came down to the school, sat in a chair in front of us, and talked to us kids about his job and about how the law is good and a lot of other things that sounded pretty far-fetched. Some brown-noser kids raised their hands and said they wanted to be cops. Oh, come the fuck on. You do not, I thought. Then came the Q&A part. What's the scariest thing you ever had happen? What's it like chasing bad guys in your car? Do you get to drive fast? Do you have a police dog? Do you really eat donuts? Ha ha. Then it's my turn to ask something. You can guess my favorite question. You done killed somebody. Oh, no, Officer Friendly said with a little chuckle. We're not going to talk about that today. I raised my hand again. I had some more questions, mostly about guys from my neighborhood. You know Dominic Amy? I asked. I saw the cop flinch. Dominic Amy was a bad motherfucker. I knew he knew Dominic Amy, a.k.a. Big Sweets. Why, yes, the cop said, looking uncomfortable. I do know him. How do you know him? Dominic don't know me, I said, but I know him 'cause he's from the hood, too. I know some other people, too, who you might know. I listed a few more names. All I bet on his most wanted list. Well, that's a real Indianapolis who's who, Officer Friendly said. Then he joked to my teacher. He's pretty interesting, this kid here. He was probably mentally measuring me for an orange jumpsuit.
Right.
That's enough questions from you, Michael, the teacher said. The cop said I didn't need to know Dominic Amy and those other guys, that I should stay away from them, that I should think about becoming something good, like a police officer, that I should work hard in school and play it straight, and I'd get to be like him when I grew up, not in prison like those other guys would be one day if they weren't already. But Dominic Amy was doing more than all right, from what I could tell. He commanded more respect on my block than this cop in bad shoes. And you wouldn't catch Dominic Amy having to show up at some crappy school first thing in the morning to talk to a bunch of annoying fucking kids. What I wanted to say to Officer Friendly, too, was that I couldn't choose not to know Dominic Amy or anyone out there like him. If you lived where I lived, no matter how hard you tried not to, you'd know everything about Dominic Amy. Just as sure as if you lived where Officer Friendly lived, you'd know all about the President of the United States or Madonna or Tom Cruise. Plus, when shit went down and I was in some sort of trouble, a hell of a lot more help was available from the likes of Dominic Amy than from any Officer Friendly.
Oh, wow.
And the reality of where I grew up is that if a parent isn't there every day, hands-on with their kids, those kids are going to venture off and find stuff, and not good stuff. It's not like we'd wander down a dark alleyway and find ourselves accidentally taking an SAT. We wouldn't pass out at a party and wake up wearing a suit and tie on a trading floor. As the years went by, school got harder, and I went less and less. With my dad not being around so much, there was no way my mom could keep an eye on us all the time. She was raising the 5 of us, me, Cheney, Julie, Robbie, and John, on her own. And just on her salary at Block's department store.
Oh, so he got 5 brothers. Okay, so it's 5 of them. So it's 4 boys and 1 girl. Okay, didn't know that.
There weren't a lot of enrichment activities available. In fact, sometimes there was barely enough food in the house.
Hit that thumbs up button, guys, the thumbs up button.
Our living situation wasn't always stable either. We moved around a lot, trying to find a place that we could afford that could hold us all. Sometimes that meant all 6 of us in a studio apartment.
Damn.
In between those apartments, whenever we got kicked out for not paying rent, we'd put our stuff in storage and go stay at my grandmother's on 21st and Carrollton until we were back on our feet. While we were staying with my grandmother, I switched from School 48 to School 101, closer to her house.
Okay, so I'm thinking in Indiana they don't name their schools are by numbers. It's not by name. That's crazy. They don't have names for these schools. School 48, School 23. Like, damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. And you know what? I've always never wondered. I've always wondered. I had when I was growing up in Orlando, I had some friends that lived across the street from me, and they were pretty much, the neighborhood I grew up in was pretty much blue collar, working class people. But then you had those people that lived in the neighborhood that were pretty much like poor, like they were poor. And I remember I had these friends I used to play with. They were 2 brothers, and they had I think it was like 8 of them. And all of them looked nothing alike. They had a sister named Ebony, and they had it was like 8 or 9 of them, and all of they had as far as like brothers and sisters, and all of them looked different. And I remember their mom was kind of crazy. She was kind of she was a real crazy hood chick, and all of them had different daddies. I'll never forget, all of them had like different daddies, and I used to think to myself, Why did this? I remember their mom was pregnant when we was in elementary school with their little brother, because they grew up right across the street from me, and I used to think to myself, why did this woman keep on? She already poor. Why does she keep bringing kids into this poverty? Like you got 8 kids that you can barely take care of. Well, at the time she had 7, and she's pregnant with another one, which would make 8. And I used to think to myself, why is she like, lady, you already suffering. First of all, when you had your second kid and you were struggling, you should have thought to yourself, even your first one, the struggle with the first kid. Because I think the two guys that I knew that I grew up with, they were the oldest. I thought, with those 2 boys, you was struggling with them. Why would you go and bring more kids into this poverty, into this struggle? You know what I'm saying? You already struggling with 1 to 2. You know what I'm saying? 1 should have been enough. Like, damn, I'm already struggling taking care of this 1. Let me lock it down so I can get better footing of my life, a better situation. Then I'll have more kids. But she just kept having, and all of them had different dads. And that always boggled my mind when I was young. Like, why did mama keep having all these children, and she already like struggling, on the house she was renting across the street from us, that was through Section 8, and she was on food stamps. I don't think she worked. I don't remember her working, Oddly enough, the 2 guys I ended up growing up with, I think they ended up going to prison, one of them got into drug dealing really heavy, But anyway, let's go ahead and continue on with the thumbs up button.
House. Man, School 101 was the hood. There were some hard fucking kids at School 101. I had to learn fast how to survive there. My secret was to act cooler and harder than everyone else, even though inside I was scared. The key to my tough persona was smoking. My mom caught me once when I was about 9, teaching myself to smoke in the basement. She said, "I'll tell you what, you stay in the basement and smoke the whole pack until you finish it." It was nasty, but I sat down there and smoked my fool head off. I was coughing, crying. It was terrible. But it was kind of like smoking boot camp, and I learned to do it without gagging after that. And that's how I became a smoker. So at 101, I was able to impress the fuck out of other kids. Some bad motherfuckers would come up on me, and I just lean back like I wasn't intimidated at all. Then I'd pull out a cigarette and start smoking. I wasn't even 10 yet, but I was a guy who'd lean against the wall and smoke. They were fucking impressed. At that age, kids say, "Damn, he's a real bad boy." And then they listen to you. People didn't fuck with me. They looked at me like a leader. Once, a neighborhood kid stole a couple of younger kids' bikes, including my brother's. These little boys were tough, but they didn't know how to get their bikes back. As the older and wiser man, I gathered them around me in the backyard, lit my usual cigarette. I was a military commander. I had to give them a plan to get those bikes back, and also make them feel like they had the power to execute it. I thought long and hard while they stared at me. "Go get your bikes," I said finally. They stood there for a second, and then ran out of the yard. An hour later, they came back with their bikes. They were a little worse for wear, but they looked proud of themselves, and I was proud of them too. That said, it wasn't like some of my friends weren't bike thieves too. One kid I knew thought of nothing but bikes, which were the best ones, how to steal them, what he could sell them for. In fact, he never made eye contact with anyone ever because he was too busy looking at bikes. Big Black Stacy, Little Poker, Julio, Fatso, Mike Jones, Flea.
Damn, everybody in the hood had a Mike Jones. I grew up with a guy who lived and they always be in the projects. I grew up with a guy named Mike Jones. Mike Jones, every time I look around somebody, you always know somebody who grew up with a Mike Jones. You know what I'm saying?
Little T,
The thumbs up button.
Big Ellis, Shaky, Big Man, J-Dog, Red, Junie, Fat C, LaDon, Rico. My mom didn't like the looks of some of them. She thought Fatso especially was bad news. My mother told me many a time, "Leave that little boy alone. He gonna get you in trouble." I should have listened to her, but there was a problem. They were the most fun to hang out with. Even when I did get in dangerous situations, I almost always seemed to find ways to wiggle out of them.
Fatso, that's funny.
There was one day when a couple of older boys were picking on me at 101. "You better stop picking on me," I said, "or I'll sick our dogs on you. We have 7 Doberman pinchers." When they didn't believe me, I went and got my brother John. "These are the guys picking on me, John," I said. "They don't believe me that we have dogs. Tell them we have dogs." "We have dogs," John said, like the good brother he was. We had no dogs. "Dobermans?" a kid asked. "Sure," John said.
We had no dogs.
Across the street from our house were a couple of biker guys who had 2 Dobermans. In the early 80s, those dogs were very popular.
Yo, Dobermans?
It was a good lie. "But do you have 7 Dobermans?" one of those kids said to John. John raised his eyebrows and looked over at me. He couldn't quite bring himself to say yes, but he shrugged. He let it ride, letting them believe it if they wanted to. "Whoa," the kid said. "I guess we're not following you home after all." On our way home from school that day, once we were out of those kids' sight, John started laughing. "What?" I said. "7? He said. "Hey, if you're going to lie, make it good, right?" I think I was a good storyteller because I didn't ever go halfway. I went all out. "You don't just tell a lie," my brother John said to me. "You always tell it and then you paint it."
Right.
Looking back now, I wonder if I was so bad because I was sensitive and all the bad shit around me was piling up in my kid brain. And I wonder if I'd had more stimulation and more education and more attention, whether I'd have been so restless. I felt like I needed to be popular or get beat up, not be safe. I was too shy to really show people my true self, so I just said, "Fuck it. I'm going to be bad." My only way to get attention was to be bad, talk about people, say shit. Deep down, I spent a lot of time hoping things would get better somehow. I wanted so much for myself and for my family. I wanted new toys and nicer clothes and better food. I wanted our mom not to be so tired and to get a nice permanent house like she wanted. See, my mom had a dream. She wanted a house of her very own, big enough for all of us, full of light. She wanted the house to be clean and comfortable. She wanted to fill it with nice furniture and pretty curtains. And she even wanted to put a white picket fence around our yard. That fence would show the neighbors that we were living right, And in her mind, I think she thought it would keep the bad parts of the world out and her kids safe.
Right.
Little did we know she was about to get her picket fence, and it would ruin our lives.
Ooh. Ooh, man, this is good. You know, this is actually a good book. It's funny too. You put a little bit. It shows Mike Epps' personality in it, like a lot. It shines through. And whoever they got reading this book, whoever's doing the audio narration, I don't know. I forgot who the guy is, but he's capturing. You can tell he's capturing the essence of Mike Epps. You can feel, even some of the stuff that Mike Epps say himself, he kind of embellishes on a little bit. So you tell that this guy who's doing the audio book, he really pay attention to Mike Epps and how he talks, and tried to capture that in this audio piece. But yeah, I want to listen to part. That was chapter 3. I want to listen to chapter 4. What's going on with the white picket fence? What happened? Anyway, what y'all think? If y'all want to go check out the book yourself, you can go to Audible and listen to the whole thing. It's on Audible. Unsuccessful Thug by Mike Epps. Really good. It's good. I read first, second one I listened to is really good. I don't think I listened to it on here. I might have did. I don't know, but for the most part, I pretty much been taking little parts about it out of it. But this is interesting. Mike Epps is a fool. It's funny. You can picture this being like a movie too, like him growing up in Indiana, Naptown as they call it. But that's crazy that they call their schools. They don't have a name for their schools. They call them by numbers. School 48, school 30. That's crazy. That's I wonder, was it like that? Because I'm thinking he probably grew up in elementary school in the 70s. So I wonder, was it just that, how they named them then? And maybe now they have actual names. Maybe, I don't know. But Mike Epps is a fool, though. Anyway, what y'all think about this book, man? Leave your comments and subscribe to Charles in Israel. Go ahead and check it out on Audible, too, guys, when you guys get a chance, and support Mike Epps. Appreciate it.